The morning light feels peaceful, but it's lying to you. You're 15. Your mother's hands braid your hair for church. Your brother laughs by the fire, and somewhere beyond the hills, hooves thunder close a dot in less than 30 minutes. Your village will burn, but death won't be the worst thing that happens today, because what's coming for you for every Christian woman across these lands is a horror so systematic, so organized, that even centuries later, the archives still whisper your name, the morning still smells of bread and smoke from the hearth. Your mother hums softly as she braids your hair, each strand woven with care, each second stolen from what's coming. Outside, your father's voice rises over the bleating of sheep. Your brother carves soldiers from driftwood, making them march across the dirt floor. The world feels ordinary, almost holy, and then, in the distance, the sound, a low vibration, hooves. At first, it blends with the wind, but within minutes, the earth itself begins to tremble. Your mother freezes. Your father bursts through the doorway. His face is pale not with confusion, but recognition. He's heard this sound before. The Ottoman raiders have come. When they reach your village, there is no chaos, not at first. They move with a precision that feels impossible for men driven by bloodlust. They aren't here to destroy everything. They're here to harvest. What happens next isn't random brutality, it's procedure. Military officers carry scrolls detailing what they call harvesting protocols. Every household is marked, every body accounted for. The soldiers don't shout, they categorize. Men are separated and executed not in rage, but in rows after surrender. Boys under 6 are taken for conversion and training. Their futures rewritten before they can even spell their names. But for women and girls, the process is colder. A line forms. They're measured, inspected, valued. 15-year-olds like you are the empire's most coveted commodity, priced in silver, traded like livestock. Ledger keepers jot down numbers beside trembling faces. To the Ottoman machine, you are not a person. You're a unit in an economy, a living resource that feeds the empire's hunger for power and pleasure. Families are forced to watch. Mothers see daughters labeled and led away. Infants cry until soldiers silence them, not from cruelty alone, but to prove that mercy no longer exists here. And as the sun climbs higher over the Black Sea, your village, your entire world becomes an entry in someone's ledger. By nightfall, the harvest is complete. Smoke curls from what's left of your village, carrying with it the last scent of home. You and dozens of others are bound together, wrists raw, eyes hollow. The march begins. There's no screaming now, only the sound of feet dragging through mud and the chains that keep rhythm like cruel music. Every mile takes you farther from the Black Sea coast, deeper into a machine that has perfected the art of turning people into property. Ottoman officers led the column with the precision of accountants. Behind them, scribes tally bodies, ages, and market readiness. They don't call it slavery. They call it inventory control. Even their ledgers smell of ink and blood, clean, organized, merciless. Weeks later, you reach the city. The air hums with trade spices, silks, and the murmur of buyers discussing the newest shipment of goods. Only this shipment breathes. The markets of flesh are nothing like the chaos of war. They're quiet, structured, disturbingly normal. Rows of women stand under the hot sun, examined by merchants like livestock. Traders discuss prices with the same tone they'd use for carpets or jewels. A girl beside you, maybe 16, is sold first. Her tears streak the dust on her cheeks, but the buyer never looks at her face. Only her arms, her height, her teeth. 25 silver pieces. A fair price. Across the empire, it's all the same. From Istanbul to Damascus, from the Balkans to Cairo, a vast web of markets feeds on the captured. Some are auctioned in public squares, others traded in private halls where officials sip wine as they decide fates. Ships designed for this trade wait in the harbors, wooden prisons with iron shackles, built to carry cargo that cries. Each voyage is calculated to the last drop of water, the last breath of survival. 15% die before arrival, and the ledgers simply mark them as losses, somewhere in those records. Beside numbers and weights, your life now exists not as a name, but as a price. Your arrival in the city feels less like rescue and more like absorption, as if the empire itself has swallowed you whole. Every street echoes with commerce, bells, footsteps, the clink of coins. But behind the marble walls and golden domes lies a truth built on whispers, a civilization powered by the suffering it refuses to name. The Ottoman Empire doesn't hide its system, it refines it. In government records, human trafficking sits beside taxes, harvest yields, and military logistics. Every transaction, every woman catalogued, every breath measured in silver. Those who purchase you aren't monsters in armor. They're businessmen, bureaucrats, and nobles. They smile. They speak softly. And in that gentleness lies something worse than cruelty and indifference. The markets of flesh fit directly into the empire's hierarchy. Some women become domestic servants in merchant households, others concubines in military garrisons. But the most prized are chosen for the Sultan's court, a fabled imperial harem. You've heard the story: silk curtains, music, luxury. They're lies. Behind the gilded doors lies a world colder than any battlefield. Hundreds of women, mostly Christian captives, live in a labyrinth of control. Their beauty has become their curse when new arrivals are brought in. Officials inspect them as if testing jewels for flaws. Those found worthy are renamed, re-educated, and forced to forget everything: language, faith, family. They learn obedience through repetition and fear. Their past is a danger, their memory a crime. Some rise bearing the Sultan's children, earning titles that shimmer like freedom. Most disappear into the quiet machinery of servitude, their existence never recorded again. The empire calls this refinement civilization, but its elegance is painted with erased lives, and while the courts of Europe write letters praising Ottoman order and culture, they never ask where the girls came from. They never ask about the mothers, who still search the coastlines for daughters, who will never return because silence, not swords, keeps the empire alive. Beyond the palaces and the markets lies another world, one the empire never meant anyone to see. Conversion centers, buildings shaped like monasteries, but hollow inside their walls, echoing with weeping instead of prayer. This is where the factories of forgetting begin their work. Women brought here are not beaten into obedience. They are raised into it. The process is methodical, a psychological dismantling refined over generations. First, the faith must die. Public ceremonies force captives to renounce Christ, to spit on the cross, to burn the books that once taught them to hope. Those who refuse are punished, but not killed. Death would end resistance. The goal is to break, not destroy. Then begins the reshaping. Language lessons, prayers recited in a tongue that feels foreign in the mouth, rituals repeated until the old self dissolves. For 6 months, this indoctrination continues, perfectly timed with a darker objective: pregnancy. Systematic rape, scheduled like training, ensures that by the time the conversion is complete, most women are with child. The empire calls it biological loyalty. Historians today might call it psychological warfare at the cellular level. When the children are born, their fates are already decided. Boys are taken at 5 or 6, raised as soldiers or administrators, molded into loyal instruments of the empire. Girls are evaluated like livestock: posture, complexion, obedience. Those deemed valuable are retained as future servants or concubines. The rest sold. The separations are deliberate, brutal, and final. Mothers are forced to watch their children disappear, the ultimate punishment for remembering love. And once the bond is severed, the empire has achieved what it always wanted: complete dependence. A woman without a name, a mother without a child, a soul without a home, generation after generation. These centers create entire lineages that forget where they came from, descendants raised to defend the very system that destroyed their bloodlines. The Ottoman machine doesn't just conquer land, it conquers memory, because the easiest way to rule a people is to make them forget they ever existed. The road that carries you away from the conversion center is older than any empire, carved by centuries of footsteps, each one belonging to someone who never returned. They call it the Road of Chains, a trade route so vast it connects the Black Sea to Constantinople, the Balkans to Cairo, arteries of empire pulsing with human cargo. You march with hundreds of others, wrists bound, ankles bruised, dust choking every breath. The sun beats down without mercy. Each step feels like walking deeper into a grave that never ends. Ottoman guards right beside the column, silent and precise. They don't shout or strike unless they must. Their cruelty isn't wild, it's administrative. You are numbers in motion, merchandise in transit. At every checkpoint, the process repeats. Officials take counts, inspect faces, update ledgers. Food is rationed with mathematical precision, enough to keep you alive, not enough to make you strong. Water is measured like profit margins. The empire has calculated the value of your suffering. When exhaustion takes a woman down, the march doesn't stop. She's left where she falls, her chain unfastened with mechanical efficiency. If a captive cries out, a guard may raise his sword, not as punishment, but as example. Every death reinforces order. Every silence becomes policy. Disease spreads through the chain lines: fever, infection, despair. 1 in 4 will die before reaching the market. Their bodies left to rot along the roadside. Anonymous tombstones marking the empire's progress, and yet, even in this endless procession of despair, whispers survive. Some women pray quietly in languages the guards don't understand. Some clutch the memory of their children, repeating their names like a secret hymn. It's all they have left, proof that they were once more than inventory. Be wide the time you see the sea again. It's no longer the familiar coast of your home. It's a black mirror reflecting the empire ships waiting to devour you. Each vessel built to hold life the way jars hold grain. Ventilated, measured, efficient. The road of chains doesn't end here. It simply changes direction from land to water. The docks reek of salt and sweat and something worse. You realize it's fear. The kind that clings to wood and iron, soaked deep into the ships that line the harbor. To the empire, these are vessels of commerce. To you, they're floating tombs. Each ship is a masterpiece of efficiency built not for war, but for transporting the living as cargo. Iron shackles sized perfectly for women's wrists. Compartments stacked to maximize capacity. Ventilation slits carved not for comfort, but to prevent death from stifling before delivery. The mathematics of misery. You're herded aboard with dozens of others. Bodies pressed so tight you can't lift your arms. There's no light, only the creak of wood and the muffled sobs of those who still hope this is temporary. But the smell of blood, waste, and sickness tells you it isn't. The hatch seals shut. The sea begins to move. Days blur into each other. You eat standing, sleep standing. When someone collapses, they're trampled. The guards don't intervene, they only count. Each morning, the dead are dragged out, tossed overboard like spoiled goods. The sea accepts them without ceremony. Ottoman ledgers record these losses with cold precision. Mortality rate 15%, acceptable. Efficient, above deck. The traders joke and share coffee, discussing routes and exchange rates. Below, an empire screams unheard beneath the waves. When the ship finally docks, you no longer recognize the sound of your own voice. Your wrists are scarred, your eyes hollow, your faith a memory wrapped in silence. And yet, somehow, you're still alive, alive enough to be sold again on the shore. Officials wait with documents and scales. Each captive receives a marker number, a price. Paper replaces prayer. Commerce replaces compassion. And as you are led down the gangplank toward another market, another master, another round of forgetting, you glance back at the sea that swallowed the dead. It looks peaceful, almost beautiful. But you know better. It's not water that glitters in the sun. It's the reflection of souls lost beneath it. The city that greets you after the voyage is dazzling minarets piercing the sky, marble courtyards shimmering under the sun. It's beautiful enough to almost make you forget what it's built on. Almost every brick, every spire, every echoing prayer call, all of it powered by the invisible labor of the broken. You can feel it beneath the surface. An empire running on human lives. In the grand bazaars, traders hackle over carpets, spices, and women in the same breath. A girl beside you, skin pale from the voyage, is inspected like merchandise. Her eyes meet yours for an instant, full of the same question that no one dares ask aloud. Will I ever be free? The Ottoman administrators treat the process with bureaucratic calm. They stamp papers, collect taxes, file reports. There's no rage, no chaos, just a quiet, terrifying efficiency. Human beings turned into logistics. You are sold to a wealthy merchant's household. Not the worst fate, they tell you. You'll serve, clean, obey, maybe even survive. But survival here means forgetting. You learn the rhythm of your master's home, the tone of his voice, the rules of when to speak and when to disappear. You scrub floors that reflect palaces built on suffering. You serve food you'll never taste. And at night, when the house falls silent, you whisper your name just to hear something that still belongs to you. Across the empire, thousands live the same story. Women in Damascus, in Belgrade, in Alexandria, all caught in the same invisible web. Some bear children who will never know they were born from chains. Some fade into legend. Most vanish entirely. Historians will later call this the height of Ottoman order, a golden age of administration, trade, and culture. But if you listen closely to those golden halls, you will hear the real sound that built them. Not music, not prayer, chains, because an empire doesn't need to scream to be cruel. It just needs to keep good records. Years pass. Seasons blur. The girl who once braided her hair for church is gone, replaced by someone who moves carefully, speaks softly, and dreams only in silence. Your captors believe they've erased you. But memory is a stubborn thing. It hides in lullabies you hum under your breath, in the way your fingers trace a cross when no one is watching. Even when the empire changes your name, your faith, your tongue, it can't rewrite the ache inside you. You see the same emptiness in others. Women who've borne children they will never truly call their own. Children raised to praise the flag of the empire that enslaved their mothers. Bloodlines twisted into tools, sons turned soldiers. Daughters turned servants, each generation bound tighter to the system that devoured the last. Historians call it assimilation. The truth is simpler. It's inheritance of pain. A cycle so well designed that even love becomes a weapon. Some of the women in your household whisper stories after dark of mountains far away, of rivers where they once washed clothes beside their mothers. But the more they tell the stories, the more uncertain their details become. Was the river blue or brown? Was the village by the coast or the hills? You start to realize what the empire has truly conquered: memory itself. The Ottoman system didn't just steal lives. It rewrote existence. By destroying families, it created loyal subjects who no longer remembered rebellion. By breeding children from slaves, it ensured that even the blood of its enemies became its own. You've seen it happen at Boy. Once your son, taken at 5, now rides past in uniform, eyes blank, chanting the language of his captors. He doesn't see you. He doesn't know you. And somehow, that hurts worse than the chains ever did. Generations from now, your descendants will walk these streets and never know they're walking on graves. They'll speak the empire's language, pray to its god, fight in its wars, never realizing that, once, long ago, their blood came from the villages that burned by the Black Sea centuries later. The empire that devoured millions begins to crumble, not with an explosion, but with silence. The palaces fade, the markets empty, and the ships rot in forgotten harbors. But the ledgers remain dot in archives across Istanbul, Damascus, and Sarajevo. Shelves still hold the empire's most chilling relics, not weapons, not maps, but lists. Pages filled with names that aren't names anymore, only numbers, ages, and prices. Female 17, healthy 28, silver, mother with infant, condition poor, discount applied, every line a tombstone written in ink, every record proof of a system so vast, so normalized, that even evil became routine. Historians who open these books describe an eerie calm, as if they're reading about cattle, not people. But in the quiet of those rooms, something happens. You can almost hear them, the whispers between the lines, the breaths caught between columns of numbers. A choir of the forgotten for 6 centuries. This machinery of suffering stretched across 3 continents. Millions of women vanished, erased not only from life, but from memory itself. And yet, the paper survived. The empire kept receipts for every soul it consumed. Modern culture romanticizes what it calls the Ottoman golden age, the palaces, the art, the grandeur. But behind that gold lies bone. Behind every jewel in the Sultan's crown, a life stolen from a burning village. Behind every marble wall, a mother's last scream. The truth sits quietly in those archives, waiting for someone brave enough to read it. Not as history, but as a warning, because the empire's true genius wasn't its armies or architecture. It was its ability to make horror look like order, to turn human beings into paperwork, to bury genocide beneath calligraphy and wax seals. And though centuries have passed, one question remains. If the world kept records so carefully, why did it choose to forget the people in them? The answer may lie not in what was erased, but in what we choose not to see. Today, the empires are gone, but the ghosts are not. They live in faces that don't know why their eyes carry sorrow. They breathe through lullabies sung in languages their ancestors were forbidden to speak. They exist in bloodlines that survived by forgetting. Walk through the alleys of Istanbul, Sarajevo, or Thessaloniki, and you'll feel it, a silence beneath the stone, a heaviness in the air that history books never mention. Every courtyard, every crumbling bathhouse, every faded wall of the Topkapi Palace, it hums with echoes of those who once knelt there, hands trembling, hearts breaking, waiting for a mercy that never came. You see, the empire didn't just conquer land, it conquered memory. It rewrote what it meant to belong, to pray, to love. And when we forget their stories, we help the empire win again. But remembrance is rebellion. To tell these stories aloud, to say their names, even when we don't know them, is to tear open the silence they were buried under. It's to remind the world that behind every palace, there was a prison. Behind every empire, a graveyard. The story of the forgotten women isn't a tragedy of the past, it's a mirror. Because history repeats not through empires, but through apathy. When cruelty becomes routine, When comfort dulls empathy. When names become numbers again, the ghosts return. So tonight, if you ever hear the wind moving through the old stones of the empire, listen closely. It's not just the past whispering, it's memory demanding to be seen. They were mothers, daughters, lovers, and believers, each stolen from the world, but never erased. Their blood still runs through nations that don't remember them. Their silence still shapes the world that forgot. And as long as someone, even one person, chooses to remember, the Empire's ghosts will not win. They will remain, not as victims, but as witnesses. Because some stories do not die. They wait until someone finally listens.